Good afternoon. My name is Scott Redler, Chief Strategic Officer at T3Live.com. It is Tuesday and definitely a little bit of a weird day. We came in this morning, futures are down 6-7 handles. The last few times we've had that, we've been able to buy versus a previous floor. Take a look at like stocks that have been strong that could go green first, and then see if there's any follow through above a prior high. And then if there's none and things are extended, maybe it turns into, a red dog reversal type trade where you sell if you've been riding it for multiple days and maybe even get a cute short if that's what you were looking for. Well, first things first, you look at the chart of the spiders. Spiders, did hold this floor or the SPX that we isolated. I do a chart of the spiders every day to figure out what we could trade against. So let's just go there. And a little wishy-washy. All in all, you look at the chart, all you see is a 3-day digestion inside range almost above what's been a very big stair-step move, where it's not selling off. We're not breaking the 8-day, going through the 21-day. We're just, 3 days across the board of sideways action. Is it a false sense of security into resistance? I don't know. But all I know is that, I'm sure shorts that have been trying to ride it up have been a little hurt. You had your bottom here from August 24th, you had your red dog reversal here, and your more, the more clear-cut one on that Jobs Friday. Then it took out this range, showing some power. Then remember we talked about trading versus gap to see if it gets filled. If it doesn't get filled, it's probably showing you power. And from there, we've been up in pretty much straight line. So you can almost draw, an ascending channel from here. So as long as it stays above it, you try and be long versus short. But when you look at the landscape of some stocks and sectors, and it's kind of mixed. The IBB, the buys have been weak. They've tried a few times, and there's been a little bit of confusion, and there have been some trades here and there. Obviously, the trend that's been broken, the active trend has been broken for a while. Doesn't mean there's, you can't have trades. We had this head and shoulders top that gave a nice calculated move down from the left shoulder, the head, the right shoulder. This wide range bar, gave you clues of more damage coming, and then it stayed below the bottom third of that wide range bar, below all the moving averages. And then you fast forward, this is when Clinton came out on the whole prescriptions, boom. And then from here, another, what you almost would call somewhat of a bear flag. So it's showing you that you have to be a little careful. There were a few trades here and there to the long side, but they've been short-lived. You had this one engulfing bar here, I remember that, and then it tried to hold in there, now it turned back lower. So with that being said, I would just be careful. Be careful. Look how long this little ascending, channel went until it broke down. It could continue like that for a little while, but just be aware that this sector is below all the moving averages. It's not acting, it's not acting well. The Russell, was a focus of mine early in the morning for some relative strength, and there was relative strength there, and then it came off. All in all, I didn't take it long, but it still held the top end of this range. Looks a lot different than the bios. The bios are down here. So perhaps, there's still a move to the 200-day there if the Russell wants to do that. The banks still just hanging in there, with some, I'd say poor or sour bank reports. It's still, they're being bought. It's been a laggard sector since the Fed said they're not going to raise rates, but still hanging here. You look at Morgan Stanley, that was their last stock to get put in the penalty box. And we talked about if you want it to be long versus yesterday's low. It's still hanging in there, and at some point, it might fill that gap. Goldman Sachs is still hanging around. Remember that big reversal Goldman Sachs had? It had it here. We talked about that at the morning call, reversed, and then now has been holding for 3 days. So it seems if the market wants to move higher, this looks set up. JP Morgan is the bank that I'm in. And it's hanging in there. So the banks are kind of set up that if money wants to rotate, I don't know why they would, but I guess they don't need a reason these days. But I guess one positive report, maybe they'll say the Fed's going to raise rates first quarter of 2016, and then these things go. But anyway, it's pretty tight. So keep that on the radar. I think what was tricky today was your high beta tech names that gave you pre-earnings runs. And in my note, I talked about it. I said, do these hold at the year-to-date highs? Do they push through and power to new highs? Do they do a red dog reversal where they push through, squeeze some shorts, get some people to cover, and then come in? All in all we had was our pivots. You look at Facebook. Facebook quickly pushed through the year-to-date high, where they probably squeezed some people, right? Squeezed some people that have been short. Maybe they didn't cover here, or maybe they didn't cover when it squeezed through the momentum buy here. And, that was one pivot. And went as high as what? Went as high as 99.59. And if you didn't use this 99.24 as a pivot, sometimes you used a prior day's high, which was right here, which is 98.57. And ultimately, where did it close? It closed at 97. So you could have had a $2 short if you said, you know what, this is going to be a double top. It's going to push through. I want to wait for it to push through, come back below, put my stop at the high of the day so it's calculated versus trying to pick a top. And then let's see what happens. And you caught a nice move. Okay, now it seems as if earnings are still not for a week with this bar. You probably see a test of the 8-day, and stocks are very strong when they follow the 8-day. Some are even considered strong if they follow the 21-day. So, they ride a trend until you see some kind of signal. And at this point, I've been long Facebook, trying to be at least for the majority of this move, and I'm not long Facebook with this type of bar staring at me because I'd rather be cute and see what happens tomorrow. Google didn't quite get to the high there, but pretty darn close. Here's the high going across after a big move from this calculated standpoint, and then couldn't get through the high, and then perhaps you could have used yesterday's low as a stop. Okay, Google during pretty much this entire run never traded or closed below a prior low, so first little change right there if you're very active. Doesn't mean it's game over, but they shook it up a little bit. If you chased it up there, you definitely got banged up. Some guys got short, and now we'll see if it goes sideways here because earnings are Thursday. So at least now you have a well-defined pivot before earnings. And you had a nice little pre-earnings run if you were involved. Amazon gave you that little doji yesterday, and then today, what was going to happen with Amazon? Nobody knows. It's funny how the street punishes companies for hiring. It's so backwards. But anyway, this was your little pause at the prior high, and then it was weak off the bat, went below a prior low, and all it did is really hit the 8-day. Still looks fine. Just came from the more calculated pivot buy, which was right around here, before actually even taking this out. So up here is extended. You want to buy stocks and be in stocks that are above the 8-day, but whenever it's extended from it, you have to take a little care, and you have to wait to see if it can continue to hold it when it touches it. And so far, first time here it touched it, and it was decent. My focus for the day was Apple. It was getting tight. Took it home long yesterday. I put a chart on Twitter saying, I feel like it's tight enough that if it wants to get above 112.10, maybe we add to it. It could be a great trade just to wake up, play a little catch-up, go on a little pre-earnings run like everything else did to squeeze some shorts, get some people to buy options, get the volatility up. That's what the dealers like to do. And then it was pre-market. It was above 112. So if you were cheating and buying pre-market, trying to get a head start, as soon as that Verizon news came out of whatever they said they're not into leasing programs or their handsets weren't great, which they deal with everyone's handsets, not just Apple, quickly went down 50 cents and everyone was belly aching on Twitter. What's your stop? What's your stop? What's going on here? I was, unfortunately what I have to do is I have to, put that out of the way and trade. And it was a little concerning at first, but then within 15, 20 minutes, the stock went green. And it took out that level. So if you didn't try and do it before confirmation or before the open, it was a much easier trade versus managing it. So as of right now, this cleared this inside pivot, which was the chart that I put on Twitter. Yesterday was your first little signal to be long. And you've had it before. Nothing's happened since. And then it closed pretty well. What's the close here on 113.78? Okay. And now we'll see if it wants to get up here and touch or get near the 200-day. Sometimes what they like to do is they like to run it on Tuesday, open it up on Wednesday so they could bait people in to buy higher price calls, and then Thursday, Friday, pull it in a little bit. But as of right now, we'll go to insert study and see if I could put the volume in here. Sometimes I don't do this well. Volume. We'll see if there was a volume today. Oh, look at that. I probably didn't do that right, but volume. Okay. Can't really tell too much here with this chart. I'm just learning how to use the new e-signal. But anyway, I think there was decent volume attached to it, not rock star volume, but so maybe we get a day 2. If we don't, it wouldn't surprise me. But all in all, it was worth a look today. And if you made money, you didn't take it home alone. They can't steal it from you because it's been a laggard stock. You go to the 5-minute chart to see how it started. This was your first move down, okay, to start the day. You could have waited for it to clear this 112 area that I wrote on this chart here. That's what this is. And, boom, went green, went through it, tiny pause, up again, another little pause, up again. And then, unfortunately, it happened. And the way this market is, it's fast and furious. They don't let you in, if you're waiting. And then if you positioned for a second move, it did nothing for 4 hours. So in order to get follow through, which follow through is hard to find, you have to be in probably overnight. So for me, I was in overnight here, took some pain, and then I probably missed this ad right here, and then this was the ad that I said, you know what, I'm going after it. And that's when I got to my tier 2, went back to tier 1, and then pretty much sat for the rest of the day in tier 1, and we'll see what happens tomorrow. Twitter hasn't really been doing much, but kind of hanging around. You go to the Twitter daily chart, still looks pretty good to me, where you go a little close up, and I put this little indicator in here, so that doesn't, it's not good. But anyway, it makes my charts a little screwed up, but we'll see. At this point, 2 little inside days, digesting what's been a decent move. I'm in tier 1 at some point. If the volume comes back next time it tries to get through this 3160, I think it'll have a better chance, and then we could see something closer to 34, 35. At this point, some could make a little argument that this is a bit of a cup, with a high-level handle, and a break above this, would give you that measured move closer to the 200-day, and then you're still, not where it was, where it was during the most of the first quarter was between 44 and 52. So, if you got out on this craziness and waited for some kind of signal, they give you here and there a few, but this one maybe could be a little bit better. So we're trying it. We're trying it. So far, we've made some decent money in it. I've been sitting in it since Friday, and now we'll see if there's another trade there. And that's that. As far as Tesla, the news came out today of, just they didn't get a good rating from the Consumer Bureau, whatever. It did, hold above the prior low. It's been a broken name anyway. Remember, we talked about this ascending channel and this outside day right here that said momentum was leaving, especially with 2 down days below the moving averages. So from there, it just turned into a trade. So I don't think anyone was married to this. I know we had a little red dog reversal here where, gave you a little bit of follow through, but broken stocks, on day 3, you have to be careful. That's usually we say day 1, day 2, day 3, you're selling. If it goes up day 4 or 5, we're crying, but who cares? They can't take your money back, and that's how you book profits. So anyway, you had a little bit of time because it happened intraday. Regardless, you look at what was going on here when it hit. I was actually not in the office, but you had some spots to make maneuvers. This was your opening range that it broke. Around 1 o'clock, gave you a bear flag where it didn't bounce at all, and then continued down. Another bear flag, continued down, and then finally you had a little bit of a bounce back to retrace some of it into this resistance. So at this point, it's still broken. I don't know what you should be doing overnight. It's the dangerous short overnight and a dangerous long overnight, considering how far it's come down. So it's up to you. I have no thesis on this stock except for, when it's above the 8 and 21-day moving average like it was during this rally up. Okay, I try and be long. I try and look for breakouts, but once volatility hits and it breaks, then momentum names need to be, love them and leave them type of thing where you have to be careful and you don't sit in them. And we've seen that time and time again. So some people was talking about gold maybe turning up today, so we'll see. GLDs did turn up a little bit. If you played this move and was waiting for a calculated pullback to the 8-day, you had that yesterday, so maybe if you're thinking that was your pullback to retest the 200-day, it could continue higher. So, that's one signal for you guys. I did not go long gold. USO held in where it somewhat had to. Actually closed near the lows. Not near the lows of the day, but I'm still not really showing you too much here. Still hanging in there, but not so compelling. If it starts breaking below this 1420, I think people will start talking about it, and it'll have an impact on the XLE, which is trying to hold, in there. XLE had a nice little move off this crazy oversold level, right there. This descending channel broke to the upside. Now it's trying to figure out if you could hold sideways and then go again and perhaps make it back up to bigger resistance, which still isn't anywhere near where it was last year. So question is, does this move hold to give you a little bit more upside? That's what we're staying tuned for. At this point, I still don't have a position there. But with a little bit of time, if it continues to hold this 67, maybe you get another move if oil doesn't fall apart. So I have a meeting and I have to jump. I'm sorry to cut this short. Hopefully you had a decent day. A lot of guys were happy on Twitter because, they're like, oh, I wasn't really looking at Apple. It was dead money. How'd you know it was going to wake up? You know what? When names constrict and money rotates, you develop a feel and a thought process. I saw the news this morning that, Tim Cook said something about the car and about, what's it called, the TV and also the watches. So I was like, if they want to attach some kind of headline to a move in Apple, maybe they want to shake it up and wake up the options too, so all the dealers make money. And chances are, the way the market's been, it'd be easier to do it to the upside versus the downside. So we waited for our level triggered. You could have made some nice money intraday, and hopefully now, maybe tomorrow, we get a little follow through versus just getting trapped. But we shall see. See you in the morning. Actually, Amelia will be in, so we'll have a 2 a.m. morning call. Have a good night.